All right, welcome back to the Vault Report. I'm here with St. Louis head coach Josh Schertz. Welcome to Atlantic 10. Have you been able to reflect at all on kind of the last couple months?
No reflection yet. It's been pretty much a whirlwind. We played, lost on a Thursday night in obviously a devastating fashion on the NIT, and then Friday I kind of made the decision that afternoon, finalized afternoon to come to St. Louis, let the players know, then and then the team, and then the university, and then Saturday went and kind of tied up some loose ends, and I was here Sunday, and we were going meeting with the team, press conference Monday, and you're putting a staff together, putting a team together. It's not been a whole lot of time to sit back and do it. I think in August probably,
Yeah.
once the summer access is behind us and a little bit of recruiting, then maybe hopefully be a window there, maybe over the 4th of July, somewhere in that window of kind of catching your breath. But these moves or these transitions are quick, and we finally just found a house, so we'll hopefully be settled in here in the next 3-4 weeks.
Awesome. You kind of mentioned obviously you didn't have a lot of time. It was kind of clear, in that window and how fast things move. As a basketball program and even an institution, St. Louis, right? You don't really know a place until you get there. And again, I know hasn't been much time, but just what has impressed you most about St. Louis as an institution? The people, not just in the basketball program, but that just surround and make an institution what it is.
Yeah, I've been blown away by I've worked at a few different places, obviously not just as a head coach, it's my third place as a head coach, but also as an assistant, at some different spots. So it really reminds me a lot of Lincoln Memorial University, where I was in Harrogate, in terms of just the commitment level to the basketball program. Everybody, and it's early, but everybody is pulling the rope in the same direction relative to, man, we want basketball to be good. What can we do in our space to help that, help facilitate that? There's a real commitment, and I think everybody pays it lip service, but I don't feel like it is with Chris May or Janet Oberly here, that we want our athletes to have an exceptional student athlete experience, and that we really, there's a genuine care and commitment to to them having an exceptional experience. There's the infrastructure and resources to help make that happen. And so, like, those things have popped out, and then you get into the facilities here. The Champion Center was built in October. I don't want to, be hyperbolic, but I would think it's as good as any, high major in terms of what we have. My office to the downstairs where the players eat, the Sports Performance Center, all the things we have, the practice facility housed in here, etc. Champion Center is amazing. And then this campus, with, kind of bricked off with St. Louis as the city of St. Louis as your backdrop, and then the academic reputation of the institution. So I've really been really incredibly impressed across the board with the people. I think the greatest resource of any organization is the people that work within it. That's been terrific, not just Chris and Janet, but all the way down through. And at the top with Dr. Costello and our board of trustees, everybody aligned, and then the other factors I mentioned.
Yeah. And before getting to the roster, it's hard to build what you have without a great staff. That's one of the things you got to put together, before and during this, again, quick transition. How important was it for you, obviously, to get the right people and also some people with experience, within the conference as well?
Yeah, I mean, I think when you're taking a job, I don't know that there's anything more important than hiring the staff. Now, people say, well, the players, but as you know, there's a tremendous correlation between the staff you hire and the players you get. So you really, the chicken, the egg, and the staff kind of comes first, right? Like, because that's, that's a multi-year thing a lot of times. So I think getting the staff right trumps everything else you're doing when you're taking a new job. And so, we had a lot of moving parts when I was looking at, St. Louis. And so wound up great that, Matthew Graves got Indiana State, who worked with me there, and Justin Furr, who was with us there, was elevated up. And but I thought, we've always tried to hire assistants that, guys that I felt like I really had the same alignment and values, guys that were really, really intelligent, guys that had great work ethic, guys that were continuous learners, had great levels of humility. I think, when I dove into our staff, I have four guys that I've worked with previously or were working with at Indiana State. Started with Zach Bovair, who's in the league, was in the league at George Washington. I had him at Indiana State, and he went with Chris, and then we were able to kind of get him back, which was great because he's not only a terrific assistant, but as you said, he has A-10 experience. Antone Gray was with me at Indiana State. Corey Tate was here as the associate head coach the previous 8 years with Travis. So again, another guy with A-10 experience. He has incredible corporate knowledge as it relates to SLU, institutional knowledge as it relates to how things work, not just on this campus, but in the city. Rob Gardner was with me at both Indiana State and before that at Lincoln Memorial. So we're at our third place together. Phil Gaetano is somebody that I tried to hire before, couldn't, but was able to do that here. And then Brett Putz was obviously up your way there at Bryant, but prior to that was with me at Indiana State. So 4 of the 6 I've worked with. Phil and I have been friends for a decade. And then, of course, Corey's somebody that just felt really good about, that had incredible experience here. He's a great conduit connection to the past and the players that were here, but to people here institutionally. He's expedited our learning curve, and of course, he's as connected in the city of St. Louis as anybody.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, it's like I said, we'll get to the roster, which I will, but just the staff, how impressive that was. And like I said, I obviously have some connections to some of those guys, but I want to talk about retention. Retention is hard. I think it's even more difficult when it's a coach coming in who didn't recruit you necessarily, right, to that institution. You came there to play for someone else. Starting with, you look at Jimerson, what were your conversations like with him? Also look at Hughes as well, just coming in and getting those guys, such crucial, fundamental pieces from the previous staff that have been there to retain them, how important that was to you and what those conversations were like.
Well, it was, once we started getting our staff in place and I felt like, all right, I'm going to go to St. Louis. I have kind of commitments on the staff. Then the second piece was, you start recruiting and you start with St. Louis, right? Like when you're, because there is a piece of like, okay, who, the way that I looked at it was like the first aspect was, and when I met the team, I kind of laid this out, but the first thing was, do they want to be at St. Louis? Like, do they want to be at St. Louis? Do they want to do things and operate inside? I was going to explain our culture. Did they want to, because as you said, it's different. Like they came to play for a different coach in a different system, in a different culture. And us coming in doesn't make our culture any better than what Coach Ford's was. Its system's not any better. It just means it's going to be different. I have to do it the way that, I see it. And so any coach is going to be different, just like Matthew's going to do it differently than I did at Indiana State. Doesn't mean that the way I did it was wrong. It's just going to do it in his own way, which is the way you should. So guys had to want to be at St. Louis and operate in that culture. And then for us, it was, who fits systematically because we play so differently than a lot of other teams do. And then who fit in terms of like culturally relative to like guys we want to be around on a daily basis. And, I could watch film and get a feel for guys' games and how they might fit. And there was more players than those 3 that I thought could fit here stylistically. And then we had to dive in with Chris May and Corey Tate and okay, who are they as people? Where are they at? And it doesn't mean that, any of those other guys weren't, but we felt like those 3 guys really fit us and who we want to be as a program. And they were the kind of people and the kind of players that we wanted. It was pretty easy. Larry and Kellen Thames were both like, they're St. Louis guys. When I came in here and met with them, they were both like, hey, we're not in the portal. We want to be at St. Louis if you want us to be a part of this. And I was like, and watching them, I felt like both those guys really fit us. The way we play, both Kellen and Larry, I think can have really significant roles on this team coming up. And then Gibson was the one that was in the portal. And we had some couple long conversations in my office, went to lunch, had a great lunch, and really just talked about, what he was looking for. And, my pitch to him was pretty simple. Like, he loves St. Louis. the city. He's been here his whole career. He's built great relationships. His girlfriend goes to school here. Us coming in was like being able to transfer
Mm.
and do something different without having to leave any of the things that he really loves and values. And so, he has some great opportunities, as you know. I mean, he was getting ready to visit UConn, and he had, so about a couple different offers on the table for, big bucks. And he's a terrific player. But, I knew he loved St. Louis, the university. I knew he loved St. Louis, the city. And then it was like, look at our system, look at how we play. And he's a pretty cerebral guy, obviously, academic All-American multiple times. He had watched us play, so he knew, hey, I could fit in this system. And that was what I told him. Hey, this is like you're getting a whole fresh start, learning a whole new deal. You're like, you have all new teammates, like transferring, but you get to keep all the best parts of what you love about this experience. And so fortunately, he decided to stay. And that was, I think, Gibson, Larry, and Kellen staying was really the foundation for everything that we did, to able to build around those three guys.
Oh, absolutely. And then with that, obviously, you're building around. Last year's success, Indiana State, obviously very impressive, and you're able to bring some of those key pieces over. What do Robbie, Isaiah? What do they mean to you personally, just to trust you and obviously follow you? And they've had that success. I know you've talked about their unselfishness. What they bring to the table. But what are A10 fans, specifically St. Louis fans, getting out of those two specifically, and how important was it to retain them?
Yeah, it was huge. I mean, I didn't know when I came, who exactly was gonna, stay in Indiana State. And, when I left, I had a conversation with all five starters. The other two guys that played a lot were seniors. And so the five starters I talked with, and the coach was saying, look, if you guys want to run this back at Indiana State, because the relationship and the connection that program had, that community, the way they supported me, but also those players was special. You don't get that everywhere. And so, man, if you guys want to do that, that's awesome. And if you guys decide you want to leave, I would love to have you at St. Louis. And if you want to do something different, I will pick up the phone and call whoever for you and try to help you with whatever you want to do. Because I got this opportunity at St. Louis because of the work that they did, right? I mean, at the end of the day, I mean, the players win games, and those guys won a ton of games and sacrificed for each other and made the team what it was. And so I didn't know when I got to St. Louis who, if anybody, was going to leave, and if they did, what their interests are. I told them, though, I said, I'm not going to recruit you, because to me, it was pretty simple. Like, if I coach you, I can't, how can I recruit you?
Yeah.
Like, what can I tell you that you wouldn't know? You know all my strengths and weaknesses, you know my flaws, you know how we're going to utilize you, you know everything about our system. Like, there's nothing I can really convince you or sell you on other than, hey, if you're interested in St. Louis, I could talk to you about St. Louis and what it's going to be like here. And so those guys coming were just, really, I would say, humbling, because I know the opportunities they both had, particularly, Robbie, to from a financial standpoint, a level standpoint, for him to stick with us says a lot about not just who he is as a person, but who his parents are, his high school coach, Coach Mansky, but who Juan and Katie, his mom and dad, are, and who he is at his core. Same thing with Isaiah, with Ray and Jamal, and who those people are, because they could have made a lot more money in different scenarios. They could have had taken on different opportunities, and they decided they wanted this. And so you really feel a commitment level to make sure that this works out the way they want, and that they get what they want, from this experience. And then I would say, in terms of what they bring, I think they're two guys. I mean, Isaiah, he got hurt in December at Northern Illinois. He had a piece of cartilage chip off his tibia and float in his knee, and he could have had surgery. He decided to wait. He was averaging 21 a game. That happened. He played, went and scored 28 at Michigan State with that injury. By the end of January, he's playing with a complete tear of his lateral meniscus, completely torn, and decides not to have surgery, plays all February, all March, into April on one leg, and leads us in scoring against Seton Hall on one leg in the NIT championship, right? I mean, it's incredible what he was doing, and the courage and toughness he showed. Isaiah is going to bring an explosiveness to the table. 113 made threes last year, but I think when he's fully healthy, and he is, now. I think he's as dynamic and as explosive, as ignitable a guard as there is, that I've been around. And just a unbelievable teammate, a warrior. He showed that last year. He's a guy that I say is he takes the vision of the program, how we want to operate, how we, what we value, and he brings to the court. And that's huge when you're, when you have an elite player and they live and breathe your culture and they take your vision for who you want to be, how you want to operate, how you work, the standards you have, and they're completely bought into what you do, and they bring that to the court, and they're as good as he is. That really creates an incredible buy-in quickly from the other players, and it expedites their learning curve because he's operating just like having with a coach out there. But he's a guy that's completely aligned with what we want to do. And he brings it to the court every single day, and that's so beneficial. He's a guy that makes all of his teammates better. He's not only a great player himself, but he amplifies the guys around him with his passing and his understanding of the game. And he's completely selfless in terms of how he goes about it. So those guys will be major pieces. Their corporate knowledge of how we do things, their understanding of our culture, how we want to operate is invaluable.
And again, we'll touch base before the season goes. I value your time, so we won't go through it all. This kind of last question, I do want to, if you could touch quickly on, because I do, Kaluani is a guy, I covered a lot at Brown. Love the kid. If you just touch on him, again, we'll talk about, after summer workouts, we can go through some more of the roster, but just him. And then lastly, how the non-conference is coming for you. Scheduling, I know it gets pushed a little back with the portal, but just, any news with that or how that's coming along.
Yeah. Well, I'll hit Kalu first. Just getting to coach him here in the last week. I think Kalu's got a chance to be a great player. He's so versatile. He's 6'8". He's 220 plus pounds. And, we did wingspan. He's 7'2" wingspan. It's going to be so good for Robbie to play against him some, because Kalu's, so fast and he's so strong and he's got such great length that he can really be disruptive, and it's going to force and make Robbie better, going against him on a daily basis. But he's a guy that I think complements Robbie really well. His physicality, his rebounding, he can guard 1 through 5 without question. He can guard and slide and guard point guards. He can guard centers. He's a tremendous rebounder. He's actually got good feel. He can pass the basketball. He's great in transition. He actually, with our system, I mean, he's able to get the ball off the board. He really pushes the ball in transition. He puts a lot of pressure on defense. He's unselfish, and the whole team has been, the one thing I've been impressed with, and he certainly has been very much in this vein, is like their care factor is really high, and they are trying to do or ask them to do, even though it's probably, a little bit abnormal for how they've normally played, wherever they were. And the whole group is really, we haven't had like blowback in terms of, hey, we want you to do this. We talk a lot about, guys understanding their function, not trying to redefine it, not trying to expand it, and like doing what they do best and getting them to do it all the time. And Kalu has been, like a lot of his teammates, completely locked into that and trying to do those things. And so care factor's high, talent level's high, trying to do everything we're asking him to do. And so I think he's got a chance to really be a terrific player at the A-10 level. He's just a unique combination of size, strength, physicality. We really were intentional, both he and AJ Casey from Miami kind of fit that mold of guys that we think can really play alongside of Robbie, because Robbie's as great as he is. Like, every player has their limitations, and you need to surround them with the right players. Robbie's going to amplify the guys around him, but you want to surround Robbie with guys who are going to amplify him. Kalu is certainly one of those guys. In terms of the schedule, it's going. I wish it was going quicker or smoother, but it's going. We've got some good games. We thought we're going to be an MTE that was going to have a couple of high majors that fell through. We are going to go to San Francisco, which I think will be hopefully a quad 1 game. Santa Clara on a neutral with everybody they have back will be a quad 1, quad 2 game in Sioux Falls. We'll open up on TV there in the Field of 68 deal. So those two feel good about. We're going to play Wichita State on a neutral floor on the Hall of Fame deal in Kansas City. So we feel, those three are like, games that people are going to get excited about. But we've got Wofford coming down that'll be picked towards the top of the SoCon. We hope to have another home game here with a team that'll be picked towards the top of their league. We want to schedule, and we think at SLU the goal is to schedule in a way that gives us a chance to get an at-large bid if we take care of our business. And it's fans. It's funny, fans think the best way to do it is to, play 13 non-conference games against quad ones, and that's really not been proven the way to
Yeah.
give yourself the best chance in that large. Is a balance of you got to get the right kind of games and the right kind of venues, and then you got to have the right levels of efficiency on both ends of the floor. And so, our strength of schedule last year in the non-conference wasn't quite as good as we would have hoped, because sometimes teams aren't as good as you think they're going to be. You project. We went to a tournament out in Vegas, and we had, Rice had a lot of guys back from a 19-win team, had some injuries, weren't as good. Pepperdine, wasn't quite as good as we thought they're going to be. Toledo won the MAC, but they weren't good early. And so they finished around 111, 112 in the net. So, but our efficiency was high enough. We were a top 30 net team. The hope is we can schedule in a way that our non-conference gives us a chance to play our way into a really good net. And then be in a league like the A10 where, I don't know, I haven't been through it yet, so I don't know, but like maybe the top of the league is pretty similar when you look at like the top of both leagues, but the depth of the A10, 1 through 15 is obviously where the difference is, right? Like the bottom of the valley or the middle of the valley versus the middle of the A10 and down. I think there's a significant difference. So there'll be more games that'll be those quad 2 or even high quad 3s, and some quad 1, certainly road opportunities. We want to try to position ourselves to take advantage of that. And so we're working on it. We still got a long way to go to finish the schedule, but we're plugging away. But you don't want to be scheduling games in June, trust me. And we've still got a handful of games to get done here before we're finished.
No, definitely. I think A10 fans are familiar with the game. A10 fits that. People don't want to play. It is, I would say, mid-major, high mid-major, if that's a term. Everyone has different terms. So get the difficulty. But listen, Coach, I appreciate the time. I know it's busy. You haven't had much time, but I appreciate, this, and we'll touch base.
I look forward to it. We'll definitely do it here as summer wraps up, and again before we get kicked off. But appreciate you having me on, and look forward to a great year for not just SLU, but I think A10 basketball in general should be a lot of fun across the board. It's going to be very, very competitive. I know that.
Most definitely. Sounds good. Thank you.